Pete, we have a second stock that had unusual activity. Intel, Pete, came out with basically some information that they're facing $7 billion in losses for their foundry business, and they might not break even with that business till 2027. Ouch. There's a chart, again, from Rebel Research. You guys can subscribe to that. It's technical, fundamental, and sentiment index that we follow. And it's live time in 35,000 stocks. Just go to marketrebellion.com/research and you can see it. Somebody may have had an inkling that something might be happening here because they were buying puts in Intel. Now, unfortunately for them, those puts expired last Thursday. So how'd you like to have called this one right, but then not had enough time on the clock? When you're trading options, you've got to pick the strike price. In other words, where do you think it's going to go, upside or downside, calls or puts? The time frame. And if you mess up on either of those, well, you might be like this guy, right church, wrong pew, as they like to say. Would you buy on a dip like this?
I wouldn't buy just yet, John, and here's why. They had such a terrible outlook, and that was coming straight from the CEO when he said 2024, we're going to start to peak in our losses. Now, at some point, I think they're going to get a nice bounce back, but not just yet. I'm looking at the stock, John, and I'm looking at a range. This was a $28 stock a year ago, got all the way up to 50. Here we are now trading somewhere close to 40, 41 bucks a share. So it's not that far off of that level. But nonetheless, I think this is one where you can be a little bit patient. But when you lose the kind of money they did in the foundry, John, we're talking about nearly 10 billion year over year. They went from 27.5 billion to 18.9 billion. That's a bit of a problem. You talked about the losses. How about the fact that their cash burn is very close to $12 billion? So even though it's a very inexpensive, PE on this one, that's something I think you at least have to know. You have to have that in your back pocket to have the knowledge for that. I think this thing gets into the mid-30s, and then it's probably an opportunity. But it depends on the timing and what the rest of, is going on with NVIDIA and AMD, obviously all the rest of the chip-type names out there. Intel's its unique self, and it's going to be interesting. But the CEO was blunt, and I think sometimes you have to be. But unfortunately, that doesn't mean that's going to fare well when it comes to the stock price that day.
I would wait on this one as well.